Everyone, this hearing is now called to order. I'd like to welcome you to the hearing on the Committee on Finance, joint with the Committee on Health and Demography. So for the record, the chairman of the committee, Senator Sani Angara, created this subcommittee and designated me as the subcommittee chairperson to hear this bill, Senate Bill number 2381, or otherwise known as the Vaccine Passport Program Act. Senator Poe also filed a similar bill. However, it was referred to the Committee on Health. But for all intents and purposes, we will consider the bill too, because all we have, it's just a formality later on in session where we will have the bill referred here. So before I go on, let me acknowledge Senator Poe, and I know that she has a statement to make. Senator Poe, you have the floor.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for allowing me to give this brief opening statement. Bakuna talaga ang susi sa better normal. Habang ang pangunahing layunin nito ay protektahan tayo mula sa COVID-19 virus, hindi may kakaila na instrumental ito para makabalik tayo sa ating mga buhay sa labas at mapasiglang muli ang ekonomiya. A healthy citizenry in a safe environment will spur the economic revival that we sorely need. Sa kasalukuyan, ang vaccine card sa ilalim ng Republic Act number 11525 or the COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act ay tila ba talaan lamang ng klase ng bakunang na ibibigay. The purpose is purely for record keeping. Beyond that, the cards have no use. We cannot use our vaccination cards to travel for work, leisure, or to access goods and services, among other things, as the rules remain restrictive to even all individuals regardless of vaccination status. Noong nakaraang buwan lamang, nahirapan ng mga OFWs na magbalik trabaho dahil hindi kinikilala ang ating mga vaccine cards sa ibang bansa. Aside from the absence of legislation, its lack of power stems from the fact that the vaccine cards are unique to each LGU, paiba-iba, without standard appearance and formatting and no security features. Similar to the measure being tackled today, I filed Senate Bill number 2321, which seeks to expand the objectives of the COVID-19 vaccine card. Hopefully, we can use the vaccine card to usher us in the better normal. It is worth noting that nothing in the proposed measures mandates or requires people to get vaccinated, but incentivize for them to do so. By expanding the objectives of the vaccine card, we hope to be able to put the right balance to public health and economy amid the pandemic. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Senator Grace, for your opening statement. I will now proceed. Just give me a minute. I am digital, and so unlike papers that are in front of me, I have to find my file in my iPad. Okay, so after Senator Grace's opening statement, I also filed the bill. So both of us have a bill, and they were both taken up during the deliberation of the vaccine law that we passed a few months ago. But both of us were of the view that there was a strong need to really focus on. I made a mistake. It was taken up on the COVID law that we passed, on the COVID response law. And so the passport portion was quite abbreviated. And we both felt strongly that there is a need to discuss this. We are familiar with the discussions happening in MMDA. happening all over the country. With DTI at the forefront, we have Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion here who can shed more light on this. So many sectors are affected, and all over the world, vaccine passports are being used as a way to open up. So our intention really here is to not have to choose between health and the economy. We want to be able to make use of technology. We want to be able to make use of our resources to open up the economy in the safest possible way. And again, both Senator Grace and I agree that this would be one of the ways to do so. So without further ado, since I chair this anyway, and they're just Senator Grace and I present right now, I can share my further comments later on. I just like to point out that Senator Frank Drilon and Senator Sani Angara are also co-authors of my bill. So yeah, without further ado, let me now call on our resource persons. We'll start with Secretary Carl Chua of NEDA, to be followed by Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion. So Secretary Carl, you have the floor.
Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Pia, Senator Grace, members of the committee, and other stakeholders. This is a very straightforward bill, Madam Chair, and we support this bill. Let me also offer three areas which may improve the context and the provisions of the bill. The first thing that I would like to convey, Madam Chair, is we are entering in a period where this virus may never leave us. It may become endemic. And the best way to manage this is to learn to live with the virus. And it may entail, I think, yearly vaccination. It may be conceived to be similar to a flu shot that you take every year. So such a vaccine passport certainly would be very useful tool to keep track of every person's health. Similar to how children or babies have their immunization cards. And schools actually, as far as I know, require some of these immunization or minimum immunization for the safety of the children. So this is in a similar light. The second point I would like to make, Madam Chair, is it would be very useful to connect this to the national ID. The national ID is already 42 million have been registered to the demographic data capture and 29 million registered to the biometrics data capture. The national ID is a foundational ID, but we have envisioned it to be a way to provide a unique identity basis to all the functional IDs. So it would be good, Madam Chair, at the appropriate time to link this with the national ID so that it would improve actually the uniqueness of the people holding a vaccine passport or certificate. Our target this year, Madam Chair, is 50 million registered. By next year, the remaining 45 million. So by the time this law might be passed and the vaccination passports digitally provided, linking it to the national ID, I think would be the next natural step. Finally, Madam Chair, just a few more comments on the bill as way of suggestion to improve. Our experience is that once we have the national and the various local governments involved, coordination might become a challenge. So we would like to perhaps provide some inputs in writing on how we can improve the coordination. If the data will be coming from the LGU and be uploaded to a DICT database, then we'll have to work on that coordination. When we did the pilot of the automated SMS for automated contact tracing, we found that this is one area where we usually may encounter some difficulties. Number two, Madam Chair, is perhaps some understanding on how this vaccine passport will relate to the Bureau of Quarantine yellow card and also the recently issued digital vaccination certificate by DOH and DICT, which I tried myself last night and it works. So perhaps this bill will provide more legal foundation to the vaccine certificate. Finally, Madam Chair, on the benefits of those holding a vaccination passport or certificate, this is something that, although it's not my expertise, no, I'd like to have a discussion further in TWG on whether some of these uh, might be contested because we do not want, of course, those who are not able to get vaccinated out of their circumstance, like being sick or pregnant or not available, to be denied some of the benefits. So these are some of the small things that we would like to further discuss at the TWG level. To summarize, Madam Chair, this is a very important measure. We support it, and we hope the context, the national ID, and some suggestions that I provided will be useful in finalizing the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Carl. Just a very quick intervention. First, let me recognize the presence of Senator Marcos and Senator Binay. Welcome. And then just quick reaction, since I'm very, of course, familiar with the bill that you are commenting on because I wrote that bill. Definitely, we welcome your comments, including what you said that can be taken up in TWG. But I don't mind at all that our resource persons comment on it. The wording of the bill basically is to allow IATF and DOH to use the vaccine passport to allow or to provide benefits for those who have actually been vaccinated, as stated in the passport. No, so basically, to be clear to all, the bill itself, at least my version, is not determining already what benefits are attached to the holders of the vaccine passport. This because it is my belief, having seen, having lived through this pandemic for the last year and a half, everything is changing, and also what may be determined as a unhealthy environment today may be determined later on to be less harmful. So that may be automatically open for persons to participate in or to visit. That's why we're leaving it up to the experts. I don't really believe in legislating expertise. Want to leave that to the experts. And then, insofar as particular populations are concerned, let's say those who would be pregnant or sick, the idea there is we have a non-discriminatory clause. The idea there is not to harm them in any way and not to discriminate against them, but in the same way that we already have existing rules that prohibit children from doing certain things or going out, and even seniors, it would work the same way. So just putting it out there so that those who are new to this, you may not have had that much time to review it, although it's a straightforward bill. You can already comment on it. So thank you for that, Secretary Carl. And let's now go to Presidential Advisor Joey Concepcion, to be followed by DTI. Sir, you have the floor.
Senator Pia Cayetano, and of course, Senator Grace Poe, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Just to summarize what we've been doing, earlier on, we've been really focusing on vaccinations. Early last year, towards November 27, we signed a tripartite agreement, and that was an AstraZeneca tripartite agreement with the national government, ourselves, and the LGUs. About 69 LGUs took part in this Dose of Hope program. Vaccinations, to my mind, are key in solving a real problem. No? It will help, hopefully, open the economy. But as we face this serious surge, the challenge right now is that we have to try to learn how to live with COVID, even with this surge ongoing. No? But as we know, vaccines are important. The evidence of taking the vaccine is a passport. And what eventually, if we can merge these three formats right now, the format one is the LGU Bakuna card that we get, and the other one is the DICT version, which reaffirms that your Bakuna card is not fake, and the BOQ. Can we show that in, I had somebody prepare a slide on this. Do we have the slide? Oh, here it is. So this is basically the vacuna card that we have. And this is the next one below is the certificate of vaccination record. I was able to get mine without any problem. I think it's starting to work much better. And of course, the BOQ, which there's a lot of people now going after this yellow passport, which looks much better, of course, and it's WHO. But this serves only a purpose of really, if you travel, then it's worth really getting the yellow passport. But from many of my friends' experiences in entering restaurants, which in the States and in other areas like Singapore, which requires now a document, they do accept our LGU Bakuna card with the proper identification, that is you there, since the Bakuna cards don't have photos, so they are happens that they're accepting these Bakuna cards of ours, but for how long, I don't know. Eventually, they will look for something that has a picture and all of that. And I think we should really move towards a vaccine passport. And why is that important? As we try to open the economy, we really have to create more mobility. And we've seen that hospitals are full with unvaccinated, severely ill going to the hospitals, and that's about 75-80% of them, in the hospitals. Now, we have made a recommendation, and of course, Chairman Avalos has been very helpful in this effort, to really look at giving more mobility to our vaccinated people to be able to enter higher risk establishments, basically restaurants, salons, spas, etc. Eric Teng, I believe, is in the room also. He will explain that later on. We just finished our town hall meeting. It was a very good one. So the country cannot continue locking down forever. I mean, that's going to be a very challenging scenario. I don't think local government and national government can sustain that kind of a model. Where will we get the money? I mean, to be able to pay the salaries of our people in the LGUs, where will the national government be able to fund all of these vaccines that will be, endless? I'm assuming that this will continue to remain as a problem for the coming years. Hopefully, we can move from a pandemic to an endemic mode. And as we do that, it's very important, as Secretary Chua says, that the documentation of these passports have to be continuous. So as we get the booster shot, that has to be documented. Eventually, down the road, the entire population will have to take these booster shots. Whether it will be a single booster, we don't know. For now, it's a single booster. But moving forward, we don't know what kind of variants will be coming out there. But definitely, I believe, similar to the flu shot, this one is more serious. We will really have to monitor each and every individual as to how diligent they are in taking their vaccines. So even if you achieve 90% or 100% of the population, which should not be now our goal, because with the breakthrough happening in most of the vaccines, herd immunity is not possible. So we have to target 90 to 100% of our Filipino people being vaccinated for us not to feel totally safe, because the vaccinated can still infect and be infected. But what it prevents is people getting hospitalized, and that's what we want to prevent. The unvaccinated basically today are filling up our hospitals. So if we want to open up the economy safely and allow businesses to start moving, the hospitals cannot get filled up. The moment that gets filled up, then the government will put the brake and we will have a lockdown. So as we try to shift to a granular approach in all these efforts, on strategies and moving hopefully for greater mobility with the vaccinated, then vaccine passports are very critical. And looking at the three that we have, hopefully eventually this data can all be put into one, no? As Sec Chua says, maybe merge it with the national ID. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Concepcion. We appreciate your taking the time to join us. I know you have to leave at a certain time, so feel free to stay as long as you can. If you'd like to make a quick intervention, go ahead. So let me move on. Our next resource person is from the Department of Trade and Industry, ASEC, Joan Karen Riola.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of the Department of Trade and Industry, we definitely support the vaccine passport program, as we, of course, recognize the need to facilitate the country's vaccination efforts. We also recognize the opening up of the economy safely. And with the good secretary pushing for the recognition of those vaccinated, at least for the 3 Cs, recognizing some debates on discrimination, we welcome this program as to having enough and sufficient evidence of the vaccination. Also recognizing the difficulty in implementing various cards issued by the different LGUs. Thank you, Madam Secretary, Madam Senator.
Yes. Just a quick comment, no, since all the speakers have mentioned, no, the need for coordination among different issuing agencies. We take note, and Secretary Carl, your on the national ID would be crucial here, no, because as of now it's not yet fully, or no, it's not yet operational. So, but I do think it would be a great idea to just tie it into that. So, yeah, we'll have to figure out how we do this in a seamless way, and for the time being, probably use the card currently being issued, but then what do you call this? Move that to the national ID at some point. Definitely. So our next speaker will be Chairman Abalos, MMDA, and then please be ready. We'll call on DOT and then Resto Philippines. So please proceed, Chairman
Yes.
Abalos.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you. And in behalf of MMDA and MMC, we fully support the vaccine passport program that you've authored and other senators. Just to give you a brief background of, with reference to the vaccination in Metro Manila right now, Metro Manila has given about 14,332,000 and 15,000 doses. Please take note that the population of Metro Manila is about 14 million, and we will deduct 30% ages 0 to 17, so the eligible population is 9.8 million. Of this 14 million doses that were already administered, those who have full dose or completely protected is about 5,930,000. That's about 60.5%. And those who have had first dose as of September 12 is 8,401,629. That's about 85.73%. 85.73%, Madam Chair. So those who have had first dose will have their next dose after 1 month, more or less. Because those who will have Sputnik and Pfizer, it's about 21 days. And those who will have Sinovac, Moderna, and Sinopharm, about 28 days. And of course, Janssen is just 1 dose. So if it's 1 month from now, we will be vaccinating more or less approximately 79% of the whole population of Metro Manila 2 dose. So by December 12, with the AstraZeneca, it will be about 88.5%. And relative to this, the mayors of Metro Manila has been vaccinating not only residents of their own LGUs, but likewise residents of other LGUs. And they have this team as We Vaccinate as One. And lately, they've also been vaccinating those of their neighbors outside of Metro Manila. And lastly, we have had this Metro Manila Council resolution unanimously signed by all of the mayors of Metro Manila urging the IATF to consider the easing of COVID-19 guidelines for fully vaccinated individuals in the National Capital Region, subject to the conduct of an interagency and disciplinary study to determine the appropriate policy, therefore, based on scientific and empirical evidence. So that's it, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. We are in support of this, and we would like to really get going our economy right now in Metro. And Metro Manila has really vaccinated in the whole country. I believe this is the region that has vaccinated so much. And we really need these vaccine passports for our program, especially for our economy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Abalos. Can you just repeat that figure, 80 what percent yung after 1 month? I just wasn't so clear if I heard 88 ba?
Okay. It's like this, Madam Chair. For the first dose, we've got 85.73% for the first dose.
Yes.
For the second dose right now, as of September 12, I mean, it's 60.50%. So after 1 month, those who will have second dose in our projections will be about 79% of the population of Metro Manila.
Okay.
And if you're going to take in AstraZeneca, which will be on December 12 and the others, the projection will be 88.5% by December 12, not including those who are also vaccinating on the first dose continually. The very least is 88.53% by December 12. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman Abalos. Thank you for your updating us on the figures also. I was reminded that Senator Cynthia Villar always says that 65% of the 65% of Carly might want to correct my statement. Ano ba yun, of the GDP ba or economic? Is it GDP actually is in Metro Manila? Is that the statement that she makes? Is that accurate? Anyway, thus the importance of vaccinating. Did you want to correct that, Carl, or was that accurate?
Yeah, Metro Manila would be 32%, but if you add the NCR plus, no, that's around 60 na.
Correct. And which ties into the statement of Chairman Abalos that Metro Manila has the theme "We Vaccinate as One." So even their neighboring cities, they're vaccinating also, which I think is very important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so let's call on now Department of Tourism, ASEC Verna Buensuseco, and then to be followed Resto PH, Mr. Eric Teng. So ASEC Buensuseco, yes. Go
Good
ahead.
afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Carla Zaldivia from the Department of Tourism through the Route Development Team. I speak on behalf of Assistant Secretary Verna Buensuseco, who currently is in another meeting. So the Department of Tourism manifests its support to the proposed measure in its pursuit to facilitate safer trans-border travels, help restart economic and cultural activity, as well as support the country's vaccination efforts. The Vaccination Passport Program is a welcome opportunity to safely encourage tourism activities, and the said program is in line with the DOT strategic thrust of ensuring responsive and timely formulation of policies in support of safe and fun tourism. It would indeed provide a significant economic boost for the tourism sector, since the benefits of receiving the COVID-19 vaccine, as evidenced by the vaccine passport, includes domestic and international travel, as well as access to business establishments allowed to operate based on IATF EID guidelines. So in view of the foregoing, the DOT strongly supports the enactment of the proposed Vaccine Passport Program Act, which shall lead the nation towards a safe road to economic recovery. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for the DOT's statement of support. And next is Resto PH, Mr. Eric Teng, and then to be ready after that would be ULAP, and League of Cities. So, Mr. Teng, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Senator Cayetano. Good afternoon, our good senators, Secretary Chua and Chairman Abalos. My name is Eric Teng, and I represent the Resto PH Group, or the Restaurant Owners of the Philippines Association. We are the industry that used to employ over 2.2 million workers in 2019. Unfortunately, today we have no idea how less than half are still working. We mourn the continued rising deaths and infections caused especially by the COVID-19 Delta variant. We believe in pushing for aggressive vaccination programs led by the government with the support of the private sector. With these first-generation vaccines, while these first-generation vaccines are not perfect, we trust in their effectiveness in significantly preventing critical hospitalizations. As part of the services sector, we have dutifully heeded the call for sacrifice in closing our dining services during the past lockdown. We do regret, however, being classified as a non-essential business. Our jobs, we feel, are essential, and the families the industry supports is essential. After all, lugaw is essential, lugawan is essential, and therefore the cooks who made the lugaw should be considered as essential. We would rather be treated as a COVID-disabled business with proper support and therapies offered, perhaps while Secretary Chu was here, perhaps with tax discounts or other business relief packages. We pray the vaccinated can be given exemptions or more mobility during any restrictions, and a vaccine pass, like the Green Pass of Israel, a vaccine passport, or VaxCert, will be a safer way for us to manage our doors. Indeed, a vaccine passport will be a vital safety wheelchair for our disabled industry. We are eager to help and be part of government's application of the new vaccine passport system. As a sector, we are one with the nation in living forward with COVID, allowing even cautiously reopening of the services sector, while we as a nation and civil society endeavor to save more lives. Thank you po.
Thank you very much, Mr. Teng, for your statement. Let me now call on. You stay naman, sir, no? So we can have interaction later on. Thank you. Okay. Because I do want to have a few questions, comments, but let's hear the others as well. Let's call on ULAP. Governor Dax Kuwa is with us. Gov Dax, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. If it's all right with you, Madam Chair, I would like to give way first to the League of Cities, being a component of ULAP. If that's all right.
Is this correct, Miss Mickey Monterde of League of Cities? Are you there? Program Officer for Policy and Legislation.
Morning, Senator. Yes po, from the League of Cities.
Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, ma'am. The League of Cities has no reservations naman po on making this a bill. However, we just want to request the committee to also take into consideration, ma'am, the challenges of the LGUs. This involves pa rin, ma'am, kasi the supply. Though we want to make a vaccination card, we also would be leaving some people who have no access to the vaccines. There's also a forum, I think last month, saying that there's the preference of brands leads to the less registration of constituents. Hence, those persons who will be given the local vaccination cards, konti lang din po siya, Senator. So parang we understand that making the vaccination passport and having a steady supply to the target citizens is should be taken hand in hand. Hindi po pwedeng mauna lang yung isa. Also, ma'am, meron kaming cities from outside Metro Manila who have challenge with the registration booths, with accessing the supply itself because of mobility restrictions, and yung lack of information. Still, ma'am, a year after the pandemic, we are still hearing some comments from the cities outside Luzon who have some difficulties in understanding the policies or in taking into consideration na, ma'am, kung ano po yung masusunod, kung yung sabi po sa media, sabi po sa national, or yung nababa po sa kanila sa regional. So yun lang po yung initial comments, ma'am, ng League of Cities. But we do support, ma'am, itong vaccination passport. Yun lang ma'am, I reiterate, kailangan lang po ng konting assistance ng cities, lalo na po on the technical aspects and also in taking into consideration yung supply din po ng ating vaccine. Salamat po ma'am.
Those concerns are well noted, and for anyone who would like to comment on it also, feel free later on. No? Stay, except for those who have to leave early. I know Secretary Carl has to leave at 2, and yun nga, Mr. Joey Concepcion, 1:45. So if you'd like to make a statement before you leave, just let me know. We recognize that those would be issues. In fact, the bill has a non-discriminatory clause. The idea being is let's not discriminate those who have a legitimate reason for not being vaccinated. However, I underscore that this should also not put in peril and put in harm's way those who are vaccinated. No? So because that is the reality. If you are not vaccinated, then you would have a bigger chance of getting infected and also of passing it on. So we really need a whole of nation, a whole of government, a whole of society approach here, because as we are mindful of their reasons for not being vaccinated, and let's just use, for example, a pregnant woman, that does not also become a free pass to go anywhere, because she may harm herself and harm other people there. So we'll have to take all of that into consideration. And just for the information of the body, we already had preliminary discussions on this in the previous law that we already passed. I happen to be a proponent of that public health trumps individual health, no? And those are that is a jurisprudence that is already deep in our arsenals, our legal arsenal. So again, but I'm very happy to discuss it further so that we can think of different situations and can find solutions for that. It's a valid concern. Thank you. Gov Dax, are you ready?
Madam Chair, thank you, Senator Pia. Good afternoon to the honorable members of your committee, Senator Amy, and of course, Secretary Carl and the rest, and Sec Joey, and fellow resource persons. Madam Chair, we see the noble and practical applications of the bill that you have filed under your committee, and we support such initiative. Although we just would like to point out a few concerns from the LGUs. First, like to put forth something which is already known to many, that the digital infrastructure gap is a huge problem for many LGUs that will make your bill even more effective once implemented. And maybe it's something that may also be looked upon by the economic managers. Second, Madam Chair, we are all in anticipation and looking forward to the full implementation of the PhilSys or the national ID, and we'd like to respectfully suggest that if such vaccine passport will possibly be integrated into the PhilSys once both are already in place and running smoothly, so that our constituents will no longer need to carry multiple IDs for their convenience. And then, Madam Chair, lastly, we'd like to also put forth the effort of DOH and DICT. Perhaps I'm sure you're already aware of the VacCert system of the national government, which seeks to integrate all the LGU vaccine programs and systems. And I am sure that under your bill, it will be further integrated and streamlined. So yun lang po, Madam Chair. Again, we'd like to reiterate that ULAP supports your laudable initiative and your bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Dax, and we note all your comments. Thanks for joining us, and feel free not to ask questions if you have any concerns or any points that you'd like to raise after the speakers also take the floor. Thank you. So let me now call on DICT, Yusek Emmanuel Ray Kaintik, and then to be followed by DOH.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and honorable senators. First of all, we are in full support of the proposed bill. In fact, this is much needed to reopen our economy. But Madam Chair, if it's okay, can I share a slide onto our proposed architectural view of how we can make this happen soonest with your indulgence, Madam Chair? Just one slide, Madam Chair.
Yes, please proceed.
Madam Chair, on the screen right now, I'd like to highlight the fact that what we have done so far is that all the immunization records of COVID-19 are being uploaded by private sectors through their LGUs, as well as the LGUs through a line list upload. And there are also some LGUs who are using the vaccine administration system. The critical difference between the vaccination card and the VaxCert is that VaxCert looks at the national immunization record. And in doing so, we are in full compliance with the World Health Organization standard that when you issue a national vaccination certificate, it is coming from a national immunization registry. And we are in full support of this passport system that you are proposing, Madam Chair, because in fact, when we have a citizen app, we can cross-reference a citizen whether he or she has been fully vaccinated. There is also a mechanism wherein we can actually look up from the COVID Kaya, which is our repository of the test of the COVID cases. And then we can also do a lookup on the TKC, the contract tracing warehouse that DOH has built, wherein supposedly all the contact tracing applications used by the LGUs and others will have to be there. So the primary safe person should be ideally fully vaccinated, has a negative PCR test, and also is not part of the close contact of positive cases. And then lastly, Madam Chair, we'd like to highlight the fact that for this to be effective, we are in full support of our citizen master list, which is none other than the national ID. We cannot have this effort done again separate from the national ID, because by then we will have there will be a new set of identities, Madam Chair. So we are very much in support of your bill, and we'd like to work, and we will be working closely with the Philippine Statistics Authority so that the Citizen Passport app will be will be referencing from the same national ID, Madam Chair. Just a couple of slides for Madam Chair, if that's okay. I'd like to update lang the body that
Actually,
yes, Madam Chair.
I do have a question. Can you just tell me ano tong next slides mo?
Yung ano na lang po, Madam Chair, update lang from the last week's output of VaxCert TH NCR.
Go ahead, and then I'll ask you to bring it back to the first slide. But go ahead.
So last week po to na update, ma'am, which we were supposed to present today sa NVOC namin. As of Friday 5 p.m., we have issued already 49,700 certificates. Meron pong mga no record found because yun nga po, ang anting challenge is that marami pa pong mga line list records na hindi pa po na i-upload sa National Immunization Registry on COVID-19. And again, Madam Chair, alinsunod sa World Health Organization standard, we can only issue kung nandoon nga siya sa ating national immunization record, Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that, no, because I always try to make my legislation aligned with international standards. So I do appreciate your pointing out the WHO requirement that it must be nationally issued. So let me ask you a few quick questions. So currently you're saying that this is consistent But let me try to understand. On the top left, you have a number. It says 3 certification attestation, no? And the
This is
third
my-
item, yeah, the third item there is citizens close contact with positive cases, and the second item is PCR antigen. So does that mean that this card will be constantly updated? Because unlike with the vaccine, okay, I'm assuming it will be updated at 6 months or 1 year if ever we will have, well, when we have a booster. But what about the RTC antigen and close contact with positive? How does that become relevant if there's no update?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry I was not able to clearly define earlier. There are 3 pillars of a good citizen passport app, a health passport app. The first, the left pillar is on the vaccination. So once you are vaccinated, you can be generated your VaxCert PH. The second pillar is on tests. So we have a mechanism naman, we will be able to look up from the COVID Kaya database for as long as the same person yon. Why is that possible? Because lahat po ng laboratories submit to the CDRS. And then the CDRS pushes it to COVID Kaya. There are also other ways of putting it, central data encoding that the Epi Bureau does. Sorry ma'am, background lang po Madam Chair. Lahat po ito, DICT, DOH po to ma'am. We are doing this for DOH. So all the databases po, first and foremost, the 3 cylinders here are all DOH controlled and managed po. And then lastly po, the third pillar po is the contact tracing warehouse that has been espoused by Secretary Chua, wherein all contacts, close contacts should be uploaded to a central warehouse so that even if you were tested in Pasay or Baguio, nandun ka po sa central warehouse po. The ones that were close contacts of the positive cases will be referenceable from the contact tracing warehouse, Madam Chair.
Okay.
There are
I know,
3 possible pillars.
yeah, I know Secretary Carl has to leave soon. I'm just checking if he's still there because I do want him to hear some of my statements and questions. Secretary Carl, are you still there?
Still here po.
Okay, thanks. And I hope Chairman Abalos and Mr. Joey Concepcion are also here, no? Kasi you all have been doing an amazing job, making this work. So we'd like this to really happen fast. So going back, no, to your presentation, Yusek, did you say no when I asked if this would be updated? I thought I saw you shaking your head, or
Yes, ma'am.
you
Yes,
started
ma'am.
explaining that the pillars or the cylinders, no? So it's not meant to be updated. So pag nag-PCR, so your answer was no?
Ma'am. Madam Chair, the VaxCert, ma'am, once lang po yan unless nag-expire na yung validity of your vaccination. Itong COVID Kaya, ma'am, periodic po yan, ma'am. It's only relevant for like 48, 72 hours, di ba? An old RT-PCR test is irrelevant. So dapat latest.
So updated nga yan. So yung Citizen Passport app that you have here on your presentation is updated, meaning to say your latest PCR would be there such that obviously if matagal na yon, hindi naman siya relevant, 'di ba? But the data is there. Okay. Okay, that's important because as we all know, and it's even specified in Senator Grace Poe's bill, that being vaccinated does not mean that you are immune, diba? So that's why if you are exposed, then you have to have a test, and that's where this is relevant. But this is the statement that I wanted to be sure that Secretary Carl and the rest heard. Itong cylinder mo on contact tracing, it goes further to refer to Stay Safe, LGU, City apps, etc. I already pointed out during a previous hearing that I have a big problem with Stay Safe, which is the only app that I keep hearing government mention when we ask about contact tracing. May stay safe, may stay safe. Many Filipinos, especially those in urban areas, have experienced it when they go to stores and they go to malls. But not a single person that I know of, and I would be happy to hear anyone who's had their own experience here, has ever got a message, a text, yung parang style NDRRMC na magbabuzz yung phone mo if you are going to be notified that you happen to be in the same place when somebody was positive. Why? Because Stay Safe doesn't appear to, they keep saying that it has that feature, but I've never seen it and I don't know anyone who's ever experienced it. In other words, we log that we entered a place either manually on a piece of paper on a clipboard, or they tell you to open your phone and put your very important and personal data, including your address and contact number, and you never hear anything. And I've even talked to retail store owners. They've never been alerted if there was somebody positive who was there. So let's disabuse ourselves from the belief that Stay Safe as it is. Maybe it has that feature, but it is not being used because it's not alerting us to anything. It is not interconnected with any LGU database that shows that their people were positive. So if 5 people were positive in LGU A and these 3 of the 5 went into that store, who cares? Nobody tells us. Stay Safe does not alert us. And yet government keeps mentioning Stay Safe, that's our main contact tracing app. So it's very, very disappointing. And after I raised it, no one has bothered to clarify that either. So Sec Carl, I just wanted you to know kasi this goes into our whole opening up, and even sila Chairman Abalos and Mr. Joey Concepcion, kasi di ko alam kung paano nakakatulong ito sa atin, and that is the single contact tracing app that every single government agency mentions in every hearing. So siguro ikaw din ang magsasagot noon, Yusek Manny. Ano ba?
Madam Chair,
Ito din yung nagsasalita nung hearing na nagtanong ako, 'di ba, nung si Secretary Duque passed on my question to DICT. Kayo din 'yon, 'di ba? Kayo ba? I'm not sure.
Madam Chair, the contact tracing is, as you can see in the slide, it is an effort by the Department of Interior and Local Government. Our work is in the creation of the contact tracing warehouse, but the contact tracing endeavor is being led by the Department of Interior and Local Government po, ma'am. So sila po ang nag-in-charge sa pag-propagate at paggamit po nitong mga LGU apps po.
Kayo ang tinuro ni Secretary Duque nung tinanong ko siya na nung may nagtanong, actually nag-intervene lang ako, I think it was Senator Joel Villanueva who was asking about how our contact tracing is working, and then he was explaining and I said, wait a minute, this is how Stay Safe works. And then sabi niya, I'm not a techie, binato kayo sa DICT. O di kayo nga ang techie, di dapat kayo man lang magsabi, nagwo-work ba? May interconnectivity ba yan? Even if you tell me that it's DILG who's in charge as the tech arm of government, di sana pinoint out nyo, because I'm not a techie either, but like I said, just from my own research and my own use, I have not heard of in any way that these are all interconnected. You can't just say like DILG is in charge. I'm asking you, is it interconnected? Are we getting the information we need for contact tracing?
As far as my last update, ma'am, I think they're still in the midst of enhancing it, ma'am.
Well, then you might as well make public that we don't have any contact tracing currently in place.
I will consult with the DILG, Madam Chair.
While you are gathering, and Sec Carl, I want you to know this, because here we are gathering data from every single Filipino that enters an establishment to do what? For what purpose? Supposedly for contact tracing, but there's no interconnectivity. So yung phone number ng lahat ng tao, yung address nila from teenagers to adults, nandyan na. Hawak na ng grupo ng Stay Safe. For what purpose? Hindi naman na-achieve. More than 1 year na yan.
Madam Chairperson?
Yes, please, Senator Nancy, go ahead.
Question lang.
Wait lang, Nancy, kasi Carl has to leave at 2. Carl, did you want to say anything just so that you can leave? I know NCC, si Chairman Abalos nagpaalam na rin.
Madam Chairperson, pwede banggitin lang ni Sec Carl, kasi during the budget hearing, may na-mention siyang about digital contact tracing eh. I don't know if it's different pa from the Stay Safe na app.
Okay, Madam Chair, Senator Nancy, sometime in March, NEDA, DOH, and a group of data scientists piloted a contact tracing that would send automatic SMS if you so happen to visit a place where there is a confirmed positive. We did this by merging LGU data and the DOH data on COVID positive. 4 cities po ang na-pilot namin, Pasig, Antipolo, Mandaluyong, and Valenzuela. The reason why we did that is they have the same application that they're using. So we have proven it to be successful. We have recommended to the IETF that this be scaled up. There are 2 ways to scale this up. Number 1 is for Stay Safe to prove itself. However, we have not seen that to happen. And therefore, I made the recommendation that the LGUs na walang app should just adopt one of the apps na available. Kasi maraming LGUs naman may apps. The most important thing, Madam Chair, in my opinion on this matter, is the interoperability. So long as all apps can produce a QR code that can be read anywhere, and this is proven to be possible in several cities. For instance, you can use Pasig Pass in Mandaluyong or Mandatrace sa other agencies. So we have made that recommendation. Unfortunately, it has proven to be more challenging. That is why, Madam Chair, kanina I made mention that the DICT and the LGUs interconnecting and sharing data to populate the vaccine passport is, I think, the main challenge. Kasi nakita rin namin yung sa experience namin na even the sharing of data, kung anong non-disclosure agreement or agreements, prove longer to come. That is my response, Madam Chair. Thank you.
So to rephrase what you're saying, this successful pilot that you had did not involve Stay Safe.
No, they had their own apps. We would have wanted, ma'am, to work with Stay Safe, but unfortunately, in our attempts to work with them, we were not able to do so.
Yes.
So
And
we
so
recommended the others.
So you're saying that it was a success for these 4 cities that you did a pilot not using Stay Safe, and you tried,
No.
but it hasn't happened. So can you please inform the entire government network that that is the case? Kasi I'm getting tired of hearing Stay Safe ang ating contact tracing, puro Stay Safe. And here you are now confirming that with us. And so either you all know this and the public is the one deceived, because why then do we keep on providing our very private information in most establishment, at least in Metro Manila, with Stay Safe? Then that is deliberately deceiving us, that we are providing that information thinking that we are contributing to the general good for the public health of the Philippines, and then wala namang interoperability, no? So, but anyway, Senator Nancy, did you want to further comment on that?
Madam Chair, just one last point, if I may. Yeah.
Senator Nancy's permission. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Senator Nancy. If 1 minute lang. I would reiterate again, ma'am, to the IATF, but also let me share that we have brought this up to the IATF. There's actually a resolution on the interoperability and the use of other apps if Stay Safe would not be able to deliver. So, but let me reiterate, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Nancy.
Thank you, Secretary Carl, for that. Very clear. Nancy, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So, are we paying for Stay Safe? Okay, you said kaintik?
Ma'am, as Madam Chair, as Secretary Carl reiterated, there's already an IATF resolution for that. In fact, we also worked into creating and signing already the joint administrative order for all the LGUs to interconnect to this warehouse that we have built.
USEC Manic to interconnect dun sa Stay Safe. Ganun ba yun?
To the central warehouse po, itong nasa taas po.
Itong contact tracing.
Warehouse.
Na eventually you do away with the Stay Safe and the other apps? Ganun ba yung...
All the other, Madam Chair, all the contact tracing apps are supposed to send the data that they have contact traced to the warehouse po.
And then, but di ba parang walang use yung data kung hindi kung walang kung hindi siya na-operationalize. Katulad nga no, na sabi ni Sen Pia na parang yung sa stay safe, wala naman nag-a-alert sa'yo kung nagkaroon ka ng exposure. So, inaayos nyo na ba to?
Ma'am, we
Kasi
will raise it to the,
kahit nga i-store nyo lahat dun sa warehouse, kung hindi naman nagbabato ng data, I mean, useless yung pag-store nyo.
we will coordinate with the ILG, Madam Chair, on kamusta na yung status nung pag-ayos ng stay safe po.
Actually, Madam Chairperson, baka dapat DICT should be on top and not DILG when it comes to the use of technology, whether it's for the vaccine passport or contact tracing, di ba? Dahil nasa kanila supposed to be yung technological know-how eh.
Well, I agree with you, Senator Nancy, but Yusek Manny, you just heard Secretary Carl, sinabi na nga niya na hindi nga nagdi-deliver ang stay safe. Tas eto ka pa, yung statement mo is kasama pa rin si stay safe. Hanggang kailan ka magtsatsagang mag-antay kay stay safe? Hindi pa rin sila nakadeliver. Sila na nga yung unang-unang na-recognize for more than a year and up to now, they have not been able to deliver. Why are they still even being endorsed? Why are they still even being included here? They should be banned. Now, meanwhile, si Secretary Carl says that there are different apps. May mga ginagamit yung mga LGU, iba-iba. Wala pa nga siyang binanggit ni isang common as long as interoperable sila. Ganun ba kahirap to make it interoperable? Ganun ba kahirap yun, Yusek Manny?
Hindi po, Madam. In fact nga po, ma'am, napag-interconnect na po namin through the JAW and through the warehouse.
Mr. Yusek, hindi nga isang kalahating taon na kayo nagwo-work with Stay Safe at hindi nyo pa rin magawang interoperable yon. Samantalang itong ibang local apps ng LGUs nagamit na. So ba't nyo pa pinagtsatsagaan yung Stay Safe? Ano bang meron kay Stay Safe?
And Madam Chairperson, going back, are we paying for Stay Safe?
Yeah, and you haven't answered that question of Senator Nancy. Are we paying?
Hindi po, Madam Chair. We are not paying for Stay Safe po. Madam Chair, we will raise it to the IETF.
Sorry to interrupt you, Yusek Manny. I just have to respond to Senator Nancy. They are probably worth billions now because they now have the private data of millions of Filipinos because they have been endorsed by government to take our private information, and yet they are not using it in the way it was meant to be used. So that's their value. Hindi pala sila siningil, pero ganun na kalaki yung information na meron nila tungkol sa ating lahat. O sige, feel free to comment on that, Yusek.
Madam Chair, we will raise it to the IETF for them to have a final decision on Stay Safe, ma'am.
Dali. Anong relationship niyo with Stay Safe? Was it sold to government? Was there discussions on buying Stay Safe?
Wala po sa amin, ma'am. Ang kanilang donation was given to the ILG po.
Yeah, pero Madam Chairperson, question lang. Hindi ba chinek ng DICT yung ino-offer ng Stay Safe sa DILG?
We were in the process of validating, Madam Chair. However, during the course of our validation, it was suddenly decided by the ILG to accept the donation and promote its use, ma'am.
Sorry, pakiulit. I had to text Secretary Carl kasi nagpapaalam siya sa akin. Carl, go ahead, condolence dun sa family ng staff mo.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My apologies, Senators.
Sorry, pakiulit, na-miss ko yun. Na-donate ba? Na-donate ang Stay Safe?
We were in the process, the DICT was in the process last March to do a technical review of the Stay Safe app pending its donation to DOH. However, March 27, DILG decided to be the donee of the application for subsequent use for all LGUs po, Madam Chair.
So, Stay Safe is now owned by DILG, therefore the Philippine government?
Yes po, Madam Chair.
Hindi mo pa sinabi. Dami ko pang tinanong, hindi mo naman sinasabi.
Pero Madam Chairperson, it is owned pero walang validation. Pero walang nangyaring validation. We just accepted the donation. Tama, Yusek Manny, no?
Yes po, Madam Chair, we were in the process of validating po. And then IATF, I think the ILG accepted the donation na po for subsequent use and propagation.
And walang kapalit yung donation.
Wala naman po ata, ma'am.
Ata. Sino na may-ari ng private data natin?
Dapat po ma'am, ang DILG na po ang may full control, sole ownership and control of the information in the app po.
Madam Chairperson, Madam Chairperson?
Yeah.
But I don't think yung DILG may office that, can be in charge of handling the data. Hindi kaya nangyari dito, si Stay Safe pa rin yung nagmamanage nung app? Yusek Manny, paano ba yung sistema?
Ma'am, we'd like to defer to the DILG to respond to that, ma'am, kasi sila na po ang nagmamanage ng app, ma'am.
Oo nga kasi parang I don't think may technical capabilities DILG to manage the app. Tingin mo ba, Yusek Manny, meron silang technical capability?
I believe they have an IT division, ma'am, managing for this one pa.
So kung lahat naman ng government natin may IT division, di ba't pa kayo nandyan? I mean, this is like a major nationwide operation. I'm a little bit surprised that we'll just rely on the IT division.
Madam Chair, our efforts po were to also build on the other COVID systems po, ma'am.
Okay, it's kind of questionable.
Madam Chairperson, going back dun sa vaccine passport, yung VaxCert, di ba? Pwede na ba ito yung magsilbing parang digital platform for the vaccine passport?
Ma'am, what we are issuing is a certificate, an attestation that you are in the National Immunization Registry. It can be subsumed into the passport. A passport app, ma'am, would be best done using
question. When you say that you are part of the immunization registry, di ba ibig sabihin na injectionan ka na?
Na-upload na po yung immunization record niyo, ma'am, galing sa LGU papunta po sa National Immunization Registry po.
Hindi, kaya nga. So when you access that data, lalabas doon na meron ka ng vaccine against COVID, right?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Which is parang dun sa bill, isa yun dun sa feature niya na may digital platform.
Yes po, Madam
Yung
Chair.
passport.
Yes po, Madam Chair.
So in implementation-wise, pwedeng mabilis na tong vaccine passport kasi meron na kayong VaxCert portal.
Opo, ma'am. Ang aming sinasuggest is also to look up your latest RT-PCR result from the CK database po.
Hindi na. Kasi yung bill lang naman is about vaccination eh.
Pero best practice po kasi, ma'am, is also to check your latest results po. Pero
alam naman natin yung katulad ng mga swab, yung mga RT, yung mga antigen test result, Madam Chairperson, hindi naman yan pumapasok sa isang database. Di ba? Minsan you just do it at home, right? So chances are, baka hindi nyo rin makaka-capture yung data na yon kasi nga, yung iba home testing lang yung ginagawa nila. Lalong-lalo na dun sa antigen testing. But siguro maganda, let's focus muna dun sa vaccine passport. Next na yung RT-PCR. Kasi I think yun yung importante is for our constituents na vaccinated na may mapapakita sila when they go out na vaccinated na sila. Yun lang po, Madam Chairperson. And last na lang, may bayad ba itong certificate?
Wala po, ma'am.
So free. Yung pinakita mo photos kanina na parang mga table, when you go there and you ask for a certificate, libre nyo ipiprint out?
Wala po, ma'am. Opo, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you for your question, Senator Nancy. Yusek Mani, question mark in our minds remain, ha? I'll end on this note. When you mentioned that DILG facilitate, well, the donation was made and DILG was the donee. We looked it up and it is public, ano pala, no? There was a news article on that. But which is what's even more surprising for me now is that March pa pala sila nagpirmahan. So it's been 6 months and Stay Safe has still not done anything to do a single contact tracing. I'm not aware of any. And I brought this up in a hearing about a month ago. No one was able to answer it. Neither did I get any further clarification. And today, I don't hear of anything. May DOH representative naman tayo. I don't know if the person who will be attending this hearing can answer that. But after 6 months as the official owner of that app, of Stay Safe app, it's still not doing any contact tracing. So I don't know what's the point. And I don't know how it is serving the needs of the Filipino people when it was not achieving its goal within the first year that it was made available, and then dinonate sa DILG, and within the 6 months wala pa rin akong nakita. So unless may alam ka, may further ka pang idadagdag, I will just close on that with those big question marks in my mind.
Wala po, Madam Chair, I've been busy on the vaccination systems po.
Okay, thank you. So our next speakers would be Dr. Eric Tayag of DOH. Apparently, si Dr. Tayag would also be speaking for BOQ. Do I understand that correctly, Eric?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Chairman.
Please go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can we have these slides presented, please? With your permission, this is just a short presentation, Madam Chairperson. Okay, on your screen, we show you the Philippines COVID-19 information system landscape so that we put everything into context. The first one is the case-based surveillance. This is COVID Kaya, which is the DOH means of reporting the cases, deaths, recoveries, active cases, the type of cases, mild, moderate, severe, critical, that are reported every 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Now, the laboratory surveillance is the COVID-19 data repository system. This is for the laboratory surveillance. This is coupled with number 1, so that all the confirmed cases are reported by COVID Kaya. Confirmed cases now includes, Madam Chairperson, RT-PCR positive cases and even antigen reactive or positive cases. Then we have contact tracing. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is with the DILG. And number 4 is the COVID-19 bed tracker. And that's where we give out daily updates on how many beds are available, ICUs, so that this reflects the utilization rate and further reflects the health capacity for a COVID-19 response. Number 5 is the hospital supplies. So we're able to track if there are stockouts of the PPEs, including oxygen. Number 6 is the COVID-19 Bakuna Center Registry, because we wanted to know exactly how many Filipinos are still not getting their vaccines and how many had already received their vaccines. The ICT now has the Vaccine Information Management System, as described by Undersecretary Kaintik. This includes the Vaccine Administration System. So initially, this includes the registration of all potential vaccinees by category. And then number 8 is the Vaccine Administration System. the basis for the vaccine certificate, because this contains the database for who were vaccinated, which vaccines were used, and if they have completed one or just two doses. The adverse events following immunization is with the Food Drug Administration, and they have adopted VGFlow, which is an international platform for monitoring adverse events following immunization. And lastly, vaccine certificate. I did not include here FASTER, which is our data analytics, because it is not a primary data source. Instead, it actually provides forecasting of how the situation will be in the coming weeks or months. Next slide, please. Right now, in your screen as of September 9, over 34,000 have been vaccinated in the country. At least one dose is 17.3%, and fully vaccinated is close to 15%. Next, please. Okay. Just recently, the WHO issued a document. This is the WHO digital documentation of COVID-19 certificates to reflect the vaccination status, because they are anticipating that vaccination passport may be required within countries, and in different countries, if the intention is to make sure that the travelers cannot catch the virus or will not spread the virus. Next, please. Of course, we want to clarify here that even before the pandemic, the Department of Health's Bureau of Quarantine has already demanded to actually issue the internal certificate of vaccination. Madam Chairperson, ito yung sikat na yellow card. The thing with these yellow cards is that the one who applies for this actually goes to the Bureau of Quarantine, and then they get the vaccine there. And these vaccines include yellow fever vaccine, meningococcal vaccine, and just recently when we had outbreaks of polio, even polio was
Permission to
included
depot.
sa yellow card. Okay. So right now, because of the demand for certification ng vaccination against COVID, meron silang online booking system even before. Next slide, please. Okay, this vac certificate from the DICT was actually created. But please take note that the domain will be actually the Department of Health. It's the vaxcert.doh.gov.ph, but there is no full transfer yet to
Thank you
the
so much.
DOH because the DICT has to fix many issues regarding the Vaxxer PH as described by Useka Intik earlier. For example, there are many records that are missing. There are errors, and so there is a substantial number of those who apply for this certification that cannot get their certificates. Madam Chairperson, my last context po rito, what is the intention of all of this? The intention is for, yes, for the economy, but also for the health. We want to make sure that nobody catches the virus and nobody spreads it. So the only way we can do that is, one, there's a vaccination card, because we know that vaccine works regardless of the brand of the vaccine. Number two, if you got sick with COVID-19, at least you have developed natural immunity. And so therefore, there is some level of protection. And number three, if you are exposed, you should be quarantined. And so therefore, you will not go uh, to situations wherein you will expose others because you are now under quarantine. But there are issues, Madam Chair. For example, there should be a policy whether it is a vaccination passport or a health passport. Kung vaccination passport lang po, amino mo ang kinukuha lang natin is they're vaccinated. Either yung 2 doses or in the future may booster doses. Yung health passport po na minention ni Usek ka intake, para walang discrimination, ay either may proof ka ng vaccination
Doc
or
Eric, Doc
yes
Eric,
ma'am.
just a minute, no? Si ano kasi si Chairman Abalos
Opo.
nagpapaalam.
Ay opo.
Yeah, Chairman Abalos, I want to thank you for the time that you spent with us. I'd also like to thank you as a Metro Manila resident. We are mindful of the work that you and all the Metro Manila mayors have been doing, and your leadership has really allowed the Metro Manila mayors to work together as one. So thank you po, and pagpatuloy yung magandang trabaho nyo.
Thank you, ma'am, for this Senate bill. We will support it. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll get in touch with you if we need further comments. Okay. Salamat.
Bye. Bye.
So, ma'am, going sa context, it's because of global travel kaya kumalat itong virus including the variants. That's why it's required sa mga travelers either you show proof na you're vaccinated or negative yung RT-PCR test mo, ibig sabihin you're not infected. Or if you're exposed, kina-quarantine ka muna either before you leave or and then if you arrive sa country of destination, including sa atin, yung mga overseas Filipino na inbound sa atin, kina-quarantine muna natin bago sila makabalik sa pamilya nila. Madam Chairperson, ito po issue. Although ginagawa pa yung sistema, which is a different issue kasi maraming dapat ayusin, yung mga bansa, may mga bansa namimili lang ng brand ng vaccine. So tayo, at this time, may 6 na tayong klaseng vaccine. So may mga bansa halimbawa, pag Sinovac lang yung pinakita mo sa vaccination card, hindi nila tinatanggap yon. So ang tinatanggap nila, proof na hindi ka infected regardless yung status mo ng vaccination. So pakikita mo pa rin RT-PCR test. Tapos kung kasama ka sa listahan nila na high-risk country, ikwa-quarantine ka kahit negative yung RT-PCR test mo. Ganun din naman yung ginagawa natin. Number 2, ma'am, yung sa PhilSys, may limitations po yon. Kasi mabibigyan lang ng PhilSys 18 years old and above. Ngayon, magbabakuna na rin sa mga bata, hopefully. So, wala silang PhilSys ID. So, kahit na merong ma-link natin yung PhilSys, meron pa rin segment ng population na mababakunan in the future, pero wala siyang PhilSys. Tapos ito po sa, pinaka-issue po sa digital technology na ito, ay hindi po lahat ng Pilipino may access dito. So, may potential po ng inequity na kung saan yung meron ng cellphone na compatible dito sa digital documentation, mas lamang po sila. At lalo na po ngayon, ito na po yung huli kong sasabihin, yung certification na para sa magta-travel, marami po nag-a-access ng certificate, wala namang proof na magta-travel. Kaya nag-aalala kami sa DOH, baka ma-overwhelm yung system. Ang suggestion namin at pinarating na namin sa DICT, may validity dapat yung vax certificate. Para na sa ganun, hindi po kanya-kanya ng application sa vaccine certification, hindi naman pala aalis. Sa ngayon po kasi ang policy ay sa travel lang. Wala pa pong policy sa pagbukas po ng mga establishments para sa bakunado, wala pa po noon. So dapat maayos po yan, Madam Chairperson. Hanggang dito na lamang po ang aking pong presentation. Maraming salamat po, Madam Chairperson. At sa ibang senador na nandito po sa meeting nyo na napakahalaga po.
Thank you, Eric. Your presentations never disappoint. Very thorough. Salamat. I miss working with you. Marami akong questions dahil sa mga points na ni-raise mo that go into the details. Pero in the interest of time, tapusin natin lahat ng presentation. And then if we have a few minutes, I'll get back to you. If not, I can just also discuss with you separately or if there's a need for a TWG. Pero thank you for pointing out those very important concerns that you raised. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so ang next natin would be
Madam Chairperson.
Yes, go ahead, Nancy.
Hindi, pwede one question lang kay Yusek Eric. Hindi kasi 'di ba yung katulad dun sa statements kanina ni Mr. Teng and ni Secretary Concepcion. Basically, yung pag-issue ng passport is to open the economy. Can I just get the opinion of DOH dun sa kasi mo magiging konsepto net, well, partly yung pag meron ka ng vaccine passport, you have more access to, let's say, restaurants or other places. Ano yung tingin dito ng DOH?
Ma'am, sa ngayon po, kung maayos natin yung Vaxcert, ang pinakamaganda po sa pag-open ng economy ay yung sa vaccine status ng isang tao. Bagamat sinabi ko sa kanina, yung RT-PCR negative o kaya walang evidence ng exposure, ito naman ay nakukuha sa health declaration. Pinaka-importante po yung vaccine status sapagkat may database tayo. Ang naging issue lang po dito ay kung may uneven po yung vaccination natin, halimbawa may manlagwal na nahuhuli, kawawa po sila kung yun ang magiging policy natin kasi wala silang permission to enter any establishment. Compared sa isang area, katulad ng Metro Manila, ang taas-taas ng vaccine coverage, so halos lahat may access sa establishment po, Senator Nancy.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Hindi, last na lang. Kasi di ba yung mga vaccines natin at the moment naka-EUA pa lang siya. Hindi nyo ba nakikita na dapat yung pag-issue ng vaccine passport could start pag nag-grant na ng full commercial quantity itong mga vaccines? Kasi meron din, I guess yung iba kasi parang part din ng vaccine hesitancy nila na hindi pa naman totally tapos yung proseso ng mga bakuna. So why subject ourselves as a part of an experiment? May mga ganong reasoning. Since totoo naman talaga na naka-EUA pa lang naman itong mga vaccine natin for COVID.
Ma'am, totoo, EUA siya nung nag-umpisa, pero may real-world evidence na po tayo that even if these vaccines were given under an EUA listing, there is already enough evidence that these vaccines work. Thank you, ma'am, Senator Nancy.
Sige. Actually, before we go on to the next pala, Doc Eric, can you just comment on, I take note of your differentiating between a vaccine passport and a health passport because you're just saying that vaccine passport per se would just give the status kung vaccinated ka o hindi. A health passport would have more. Doon siguro papasok na yung sige, baka nga hindi ka vaccinated pero kaka-negative PCR mo lang, right? That's what you're saying, no? Tama?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And that will reduce discrimination na ang ating policy lamang vaccination. Pero kung dumating yung panahon, ma'am, na maganda na yung vaccine coverage, then the vaccine passport can hold on its own. Kaya nga pinaliwanag ko kay Senator Nancy, ang pinakamagandang scenario natin is mataas na yung vaccine coverage at yung vaccine status na lang. Lalo na kung yung RT-PCR ang pagbabasihan natin, may bayad po yun. Itong vaccination card, sinabi naman ng DICT ni Usek Kaintik, wala pong bayad. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So basically naman, what's in the bill is although it is called a vaccine passport, it does encompass your health status because it recognizes a negative RT-PCR test indicated there also. If in fact you would not be vaccinated, then you would have to show that, because as it is our practice now, depending on where you go, like there are certain LGUs, there are certain establishments that would really require a negative RT-PCR. So that card, although it is named currently in the bill as a vaccine card, could then be renamed as a vaccine and health card, because it will actually also cover that, so that it can be used by those who, for whatever reason, are not vaccinated, or they could have been vaccinated but somehow otherwise exposed, and therefore they need to prove that they're not positive and have an RT-PCR. Diba? Tama?
Yes, ma'am. Sa ibang bansa, they're making a distinction between a vaccine passport, yung nasa bill po ninyo. Sa atin, tinawag nating health passport, pero sa ibang bansa, tinawag na immunity passport. Ayaw namin yung immunity passport kasi kahit na nabakunahan ka, halimbawa, pwede ka pa rin ma-infect, lalo hindi ka nag-ingat. So hindi lang po, ma'am, na negative RT-PCR. Kung nagka-COVID infection ka na, may natural immunity ka na po, regardless kung nagpabakuna ka o hindi. So yan po ay pwede rin bigyan ng health passport. Pero syempre, kailangan po manggaling yan sa mga advisory group of experts po natin para yung policy po ay malinaw. Thank you, Chairperson, ma'am.
Well, for the record naman, ang nasa bill ko is, aside from the basic information, it also says such other information that may be determined by the Secretary of Health or IATF in line with the declared policy. So I try my best when I draft legislations not to pretend to be the expert I am not, diba?
Okay.
So I always give
Ma'am,
leeway.
kaya nga po, ma'am, masaya kami nung nabasa namin yung section na yon kasi binibigyan nyo ng flexibility yung bill. Kasi sa ngayon, yun ang recommendation, at dahil sa hindi nyo in-specify, yung section na yon will take care of the other requirements, ma'am. Kaya maganda po yung bill. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So let's go now to, I have to wrap up in a few minutes. So from what I know, I think dalawa na lang yata ang speaker. So, but let me call on DFA, ASEC Eric Tamayo, and then after DFA is that it ba? Anyway, DFA, please take the floor, ASEC Tamayo.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and honorable senators. The department conveys its appreciation for the invitation to participate in the hearing this afternoon. At the outset, we express our support for the principle underlying the proposed measure, and we note that we had also recently soft-launched the Philippines Vaccination Certificate, or VaxCert-PH. We note the two contexts presented by the proposed measure on the implementation and utilization of a vaccine passport program. One is the domestic or internal aspect of the measure, and the other is the international element, particularly on Section 7 of the draft, and also narrowly focused on the OFWs who have been vaccinated abroad. And we wish to focus our response to the latter as it pertains to reopening our borders and facilitating the movement of vaccinated individuals. And also, before proceeding, allow us to note that loosely referring to the main document as a vaccine passport, in the documentation, maybe suggest that perhaps we can limit the term to maybe a vaccine card or a vaccine pass or a vaccine certification or certificate, as often referred to in official international platforms. The reference to and use of the term passport connotes a travel document, and the travel document must conform to international standards as prescribed by international bodies such as the International Civil Aviation Organization, or the ICAO. No international standard currently exists concerning vaccination certificates for COVID-19. Hence, any legislated measure covering the global or international application of a vaccination certificate may be best served once the standards are in place. Discussions for such a standard has been spurred on by proposals coming from the World Health Organization under their digital documentation of COVID-19 vaccination certificates, vaccination status, or the DDC-CVS, as well as discussions taking place within the ICAO itself covering their Visible Digital Seal or VDS initiative. Meanwhile, the International Air Transport Association or IATA has also proposed to facilitate the interoperability of vaccination certificates issued by individual countries through its Travel Pass initiative. The discourse on the issuance and use of vaccination certificates or pass in other countries has been quite varied and contentious in some ways. Considerations revolve around the fact that most countries are still in the early stages of the vaccine rollout, concerns about the impact of existing variants, as well as the ability of vaccines to offer protection and prevent transmission. Measures must also be in place to mitigate fraud. Concerns related to the privacy of the individual must also be maintained, contingent on policies governing medical records of individuals. Currently, for Filipinos abroad, the verification of vaccination status of individuals vaccinated abroad can be attested to and are being served by the Philippine Overseas Labor Office for OFWs and for other overseas Filipinos under the International Health Regulations of the World Health Organization and its International Certificate of Vaccination and Prophylaxis, or the ICDP, or as mentioned earlier, the yellow card or the card June. There are 196 countries, including the Philippines, who are signatories to this international accord. However, this yellow card system attests the original intention of this international health regulations attests to the immunity of individuals from diseases covered under it, notably yellow fever, polio, measles, rubella. This facet is not yet supported by evidence with respect to COVID-19. Both the enhanced BOQ yellow card being issued and the PH are deemed to be forward compliant to WHO proposals, and both are capable of the exchange of security keys for online security and verification. VaxCert PH is intended to be issued for individuals vaccinated in the Philippines. Whether Filipinos vaccinated outside the country may be included in the main database or be allowed access to it is a matter of policy currently under discussion. For purpose of travel abroad, we are also promoting the acceptance of VaxCert PH by other countries. Finally, policies governing the entry of vaccinated individuals and the Philippines opening up its borders need to take into consideration the interest of the government in mitigating the risk of importing COVID-19 with minimal quarantine and the confidence by which passengers and governments will have on individuals' verified COVID-19 vaccination status. With such evidence-based assurances and as reinforced by international standards and digital authentication, the inclusion of the international aspect or component of a vaccine passport program may be best served robustly. That being said, the department is always prepared to work with the Department of Health Bureau of Quarantine and consistent with its legal mandates covering the entry of vaccinated persons into the Philippines, as well as the authentication or apostillization service requirements that may be needed by our stakeholders and subject to the policy guidance by the Department of Health and the IATF. Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Yusek Eric Tamayo, for that very thorough commentary on the bill. We appreciate it. In fact, I take note of the evolving, ever-changing, or actually still developing the developments in other countries. And that's why the bill, if you notice, refers to the need to defer to the Bureau of Quarantines and DFA on developments now abroad. Like I said earlier on, with regards to internal issues, I also leave that up to the experts. So the flexibility will be there. And just a quick response, the reason why it's termed as a passport in my bill is just because I was mindful that they do use that term a lot internationally, but I am properly, I took note of your commentary that passport does have a very specific meaning. So I mean, I'm quite flexible on that. And you also reiterated what Dr. Eric Tayag mentioned about the difference between a vaccine card or like a health card that would encompass both vaccination status or a negative RT-PCR test anyway. So we'll take due note of all of that. Thank you very much, and please give my warmest regards to the Secretary. Thank you.
Permission to speak, Madam Chair.
Yes, sure, Doc Eric.
Okay. Vaccine passport is not restricted to travel. It actually encompasses allowing those with this vaccine passport for establishments, either for their job, school, or for some other purpose. Thank you, ma'am.
The chair.
That's what I was observing. That's why we use the term. But I can understand that Attorney Eric Tamayo, coming from DFA, would stand by the official meaning of the word passport, no? So naintindihan ko naman yung pinanggagalingan din niya. That's why I also explained where I use it, and thank you for the clarification, Doc Eric. Sige, Senator Nancy.
Madam Chair, quick lang. Kasi based dun sa bill mo on Section 3, yung data would be LGU driven. But based dun sa statement ni Mr. Tamayo, paano yung mga kababayan natin who got it from abroad? Diba? Paano sila mapapasok dun sa database natin pag nandito na sila sa Pilipinas?
Yes. Good point, good point. The reason why it was LGU based is upon consultation with IATF earlier in the drafting. The practice now is LGU driven. But you raise a very good point. So I will have to ask DFA for their suggestions. No? Ano ba yun? I-verify ba yung kanilang local card in the consulate? Ganun ba yun? Pero sana yung madali lang para hindi naman mahirapan yung mga kababayan natin, di ba? Sa atin naman kung ano yung madali na reliable. Thanks for raising that issue.
Madam Chair,
if I may,
permission to speak.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, just a thought, it's basically, I think it would now be based on your residence, right? So it's not a matter of saan ang citizenship mo eh. Kasi kung resident ka ng Pilipinas, kahit sa anong nationality mo, bibigyan ka naman eh, di ba? So in the same way, yung mga Pilipino abroad, bibigyan naman sila din ng card na yon. So let's just ensure that our language captures all of them. Thanks, Senator Nancy. Doc Eric, ano yun? You wanted to...
Madam Chair, ma'am, in the near future, ma'am, parang look at this na itong mga vac certificate from different countries ay magiging interoperable. Parang talaga yung passport, pag chinek nila, mag-verify nila na these are authenticated. So ganun din po kung may darating at nabakunahan sila sa iba, there will be a mechanism the IT tools and application na may-verify po sila. So hindi na kailangan ng secondary authentication sa atin kasi this will be primarily authenticated dun sa vaccine system of their countries of origin. Salamat, ma'am.
Let me recognize Senator Pimentel. We have one last speaker, DBM, no? And then after that, we just have a few minutes kasi we have session at 3 p.m. So,
Madam Chair.
Senator Nancy, sige.
One last point lang, coming from dun sa statement ni Yusek Tayag. So, ibig sabihin nun, dapat meron din palang room dun sa bill wherein we would recognize vaccine passports from other countries.
Opo, ma'am. Salamat po, ma'am.
Yun lang po, Madam Chairperson. Thank you.
Noted on that, Senator Nancy and Doc Eric. Sige, DBM, let me recognize you. This is Yusek Kim Robert De Leon.
Yes, Madam Chairman, good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Yusek Kim Robert De Leon. And on the part of the Department of Budget and Management, we interpose no objection to the bill that is now being deliberated upon by this subcommittee, with a note that, of course, if this may entail additional budget on the part of the final implementing agency, may it be the Bureau of Quarantine or say the Philippine Statistics Agency. Initially, this may be sourced from any available release allotments, but in the event of insufficiency, we can source additional funding, Madam Chairperson, from the current year's contingent fund or the program appropriations, specifically for the COVID-related interventions, a special provision of the program appropriations, Madam Chairperson. We so submit.
Okay, thank you. Clarification lang, when you said na na if ever we can source it from unprogrammed, so ang mo is magiging unprogrammed lang to?
Madam Chairman, what we are referring to is that if this is approved during the current year or even in 2022 and there is no specific line item, we can tap the standby and program appropriations to fund this, and we'll make sure we will coordinate with the DOF for the availability of the necessary certification to trigger the program appropriation just to fund this important legislation, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anyone want to say anything? Senator Coco, you came in just now. Baka you have questions. I'll be happy to share the info we have, but you have a few minutes if you want to ask some questions.
Sige ma'am, I had difficulty logging in. I'm sorry, no. Anyway, we can discuss this on the floor.
We can naman and give
Siguro
you
on the floor, I will just highlight because we just recently passed a bill, di ba? A bill into law. So this is now amending that recently passed law. And in what sense does it amend it? What is the purpose of the measure, Madam Chairwoman? Is it to grant more mobility to those vaccinated?
Yes, well, actually what it is it's meant to open up the economy further by exploring ways of doing this, including allowing those vaccinated more mobility, or as an alternative for those who are not vaccinated to indicate that they have a negative PCR. But that would be determined by, the need would be determined by IATF, no? That's why it's not our intention to legislate the specific circumstances, but to I think it's meant to be what do you call this, to shine a light, no, in for the economic sector, so that they know that we are trying to find ways to help them open up. And one of those, as being discussed all over the world, is the implementation of some kind of vaccine passport. But as correctly pointed out here earlier, it would be more like a vaccine plus health passport, because if you're not vaccinated, then the alternative, even in other countries, is you show a negative PCR. Depending on the area, no? If it's an open space, obviously you wouldn't need either. But if it's a closed space, then you may have to show one or the other.
Okay, my concerns, Madam Chairwoman, is that passport kasi connotes mobility. Actually, it connotes international travel. So baka we might be discriminating against the people's right to travel, right to move around, especially when the vaccines are still, I think they're still all under emergency use. If I'm not mistaken, Madam Chairperson, emergency use. So how can I have reservations in setting up a mechanism where we give the impression that we are mandating people by giving them some conveniences, di ba, to get vaccinated when the vaccines themselves are under emergency use authorization only. Parang as I understand emergency use authorization, we are all participants in an extended phase 3 stage for the vaccine makers. Those are my concerns, Madam Chairperson.
See, maybe we can ask Dr. Eric Tayag already responded to that earlier.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson.
And then,
thank you, Senator Pimentel. There's already real-world evidence that vaccines work. Now, the precaution here is that having a vaccine certificate or getting the complete doses of the vaccine does not remove any risk from getting infected kasi may breakthrough infections. But compared to an unvaccinated, mas lamang naman yung bakunado. While this is started as emergency use at bilyon na yung nabakunahan, ang ibig lang sabihin po nun ay may real world evidence na tayo na they work. Okay, even for these variants. It may not be perfect, but the vaccines that we have work and give us protection as long as they can, and as far as how we are coupling this with health protocols. Thank you, Senator Pimentel. Thank you, Chairperson.
Madam Chair, Madam Chairwoman.
Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I guess addressing the concern also of our colleague Senator Coco. I know that he was coming from an argument of uh, the freedoms that we have to choose whether or not we should be vaccinated, and it might be something that will discriminate against those who are not. But I would like to point out, but the reality is countries that employ many of our citizens are actually requiring some sort of a uniform uh, vaccine card. In a way, yes, discriminating against those who are entering their country without that certification. We've seen that we are trying to catch up, playing catch up now because we didn't pass it to be a standard vaccine card. Now our OFWs are lining up with the Bureau of the Bureau of the Bureau of Quarantine, if I'm not mistaken, the ones that are issuing the yellow card, just to be able to catch their flight. And so now, we have here balancing our freedoms. We are not telling our citizens, you have to get vaccinated or you will be imprisoned. We are not at that point yet, and I don't think we are going to reach that point. But the reality is, those who are vaccinated and who chooses to be vaccinated should have a standard form. It's just as simple as that, because even businesses here can't open. Imagine if you have a different card from one province and then another from a different province. Even if I was even in other countries, I wouldn't be able to distinguish which one is the official one. So I think that yes, we have this argument about the different freedoms and anti-discrimination, but I think this is the for the greater good. Certain protocols, perhaps in the past, are no longer as necessary as it is now because of the emergency that we are facing. So I know that in our past arguments in plenary, Senator Pia and I just yielded to the request of some of our colleagues so that it won't delay the passing of that vaccine bill. But I think now that we really have to assert that we have to get organized when it comes to this. That's all, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Grace. Yes, you also spoke on my behalf. Maybe for the for the sake of Senator Pimentel, sayang kasi I don't know if Mr. Joey Concepcion is still here, but Mr. Eric Teng of Restaurant Philippines is here. Would you like to say something, sir, just to repeat? Because what I recall lang kasi is meanwhile itong economic sector natin, they really are suffering, no? Even if vaccinated itong mga waiters nila, yung mga staff nila, hindi pa rin their closure orders hurt them because there's no, well, the IATF would determine that hindi safe for them to open up. So the idea really here is to give them more leeway to open up, no, so that their staff can have jobs, can continue to work. Do you want to add to that, Mr. Teng?
Thank you, Senator Cayetano. As to Senator Pimentel's point, we in the Restaurant Association have been closed down for over 18 months, and we've lost more than half of our staff with no end in sight. So what we only see between this ECQ and the previous one, the difference is we already have 50% vaccinated population for Metro Manila. Now, in no way are we saying that the vaccinated population is a safe group. We're only saying that it can be a safer group for us to entertain. If I may share with you, in the restaurant experience before the lockdown, customers call us and ask if we have a vaccinated area or if we have vaccinated staff. We are being discriminated against by our own customers. But the curious thing is that it's not really the vaccinated who's asking that question, it's unvaccinated. Unlike the gym, spas, and salon, who has a one-on-one interaction with the business, for a restaurant, it can be a group. So in that group, A father can be vaccinated, a mother might not be, the children might not be. So they want to be able to have access to certain places where they feel more protected. Around March of this year, we had a meeting with Mayor Lino Cayetano and the other mayors, and we presented the proposal. The proposal was for a Bakuna Pass or Bakuna Badge. It wasn't a nationally recognized system. It was merely a private enterprise or private sector initiative. And it's funded purely by the private sector. In other words, when the customers come and eat and they've been vaccinated, they show us this Bakuna Pass, and we pay for that to let them in. This Bakuna Pass has no transfer of data, so data privacy is not an issue. And it's also with cooperation with the relevant LGU or the participating mayors who want to participate. And all we do is ask that question if that person has a vaccination record in that LGU or not. And if that record is present, we give them a pass and they come in and have dining. It's for a limited time and a stopgap. When we presented this sometime in March, we were hopeful that the DICT will come up with a vax cert around this time. Unfortunately, we are still seeing some delay. And I would also want to ask that question if a third party like us in the restaurant can actually scan and verify if that vax cert is legitimate or fake. The problem right now is that because of data privacy, there seems to be only two-way access for that data, the user of that data and the agency who processed that data, not for a third party like a restaurant, a movie, a bar, or anyone else to be able to verify. And in no way are we saying that it's a right for a pass, like a passport. It merely is like a toll fee or toll gate pass for people to get through, especially in what they call the high-risk disabled COVID industries like bars, spas, salons, gyms, and restaurants. Thank you, Paul.
Madam Chair.
Dear colleagues, who was that? Was that you, GovDax? Because we only have 2 minutes and then we have to report to session. So last 1 minute.
1 minute. Madam Chair, very quickly, baka pwede lang maglambing. Maybe in section 4, you can add there that LGUs may also add to the benefits that are already enlisted in your bill, so that LGUs can multiply benefits for the said vaccine passport. And last, Madam Chair, maybe you can ponder with DOH, magkakaroon po ba ng expiry yung vaccine passport? Kasi nga po, vaccines tend to wane, and then it can be renewed when boosters are given. But I don't know yet.
Okay.
I would just a possible issue that may be addressed by your bill.
Yes.
Thank you,
Noted.
Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. So, dear colleagues, I hope di ka nabitin, Senator Pimentel, pero we can continue this discussion. Thank you very much. We have to go into session. Thank you very much, everyone who took the time to be with us. Your input is really valued. Maraming salamat po. Suspended. The hearing is suspended. We might have another one or TWG. Thank you.
Thank you po.